you hearing out there from New Hampshire voters about their experience with candidates in the primary cycle, and is it different this time? Or you're showing us pictures of Hopkinton with 200 people, so it's resonating with some people, but do you feel that it's a national campaign and not a New Hampshire campaign?
Well, if we're going to preserve our democracy and the way in which we elect people, which is from the grassroots upward, you've got to maintain the viability, the salience of the New Hampshire primary. Because it provides that very unique window on the candidates, not just for the people in New Hampshire, New England, but indeed for the people of the country, for them to be able to see who they are without the artificiality associated with politics, without the corny commercials associated with politics. It's you, the candidate, and people. I think there's something very unique about New Hampshire. It's called town hall meetings. It's called a state that for 100 years has embraced the responsibility of being the first primary state in America. Citizens step up with that responsibility. How many years did you say
it's embraced that role?
What's that?
How many years has it embraced that role?
I think 100 years. I think the New Hampshire primary has been in existence for 100 years, or early 1900s, I think is when it started. And we can check the data on that. But so there's, I mean, so central is it to politics that it's written into state law in terms of when it will fall, scheduling-wise. I think there's something about the citizens here who are armed with the facts, who are ready to engage, who take that responsibility of being first in the nation very, very seriously. I'm not sure that happens overnight. That just, you don't find an electorate, a citizenry that is all of a sudden prepared and tuned in enough to the issues in the process to be able to replace New Hampshire. Well, having experienced a similar situation as governor of the state of Utah, where we had a good state, a lot of the right ingredients for success, but we didn't have the right leadership and we didn't have the right plan. And so I ran in 2004 on a very specific proposal, a 10-point plan. I won't bore you with the details now, but it started with tax reform and tax cuts, energizing our economic foundation to where we could become the best state for business in America. We took that forward to the public, and I said, listen, this is what I can do based upon my background. This is what I can do based upon my leadership skills. If you elect me, I'm going to implement every one of these 10 points. Got elected in 2004. It took us 2 years to get tax reform through, but we brought about the largest tax reform, tax cut package the state had ever seen in history. The Cato Institute came out that year and said Utah's got the best tax policy of any state in America. We created a business-friendly environment by addressing excessive red tape and bureaucratic delays, and created, and the Forbes magazine came out and said #1 in terms of business-friendly. We became the best managed state in America according to the Pew Foundation. We went through health care reform. It took us 3 years. We addressed a lot of the issues around cost containment, closing the gap on the uninsured. It took us 3 years, but we got there. Then I ran for re-election in 2008 and went to the public and said, our unemployment's 2.4%. We're the #1 economy in the country. We've started to fund our schools in ways that we'd never been able to before. We're now able to build infrastructure that the fastest growing state in America desperately needs. If you like what you see, I want your vote. If not, vote for the other guy. The tax code, which is dilapidated, broken, anachronistic. It's a 1955 Chevy at a time when we're wondering why we're falling behind, in the super highway of life and the super highway of global economics. But we've got to update it. So I'm saying by updating it, we take the current tax code, we phase out the loopholes and the deductions on the individual income side.
Which loopholes and deductions on the individual income side?
All of them.
Mortgage deduction?
All of them.
You get rid of that?
Get rid of that too. Same thing I asked for and did as governor of the state of Utah. We created a flat tax. Everybody said at the beginning of the exercise, you're not going to get it done. It's politically impossible. It took us 2 years, but we got it done. Called leadership, and bringing all the right people into a room and hammering out a deal so these things are done.
What other individual deductions would you get away? Would you eliminate or phase out?
All of them. I wouldn't keep any of them.
Child care.
I wouldn't keep any of them. I know it's all a negotiation at the end of the day with Congress, but I would raise the revenue from phasing out those loopholes and deductions, and I'd reinvest it into the tax code on the individual income side, and I would buy down the rate to where we would be left with 8%, 14%, and 23%.
It sounds like heading in the direction of a flat tax.
That's what we did in our state. We created a flat tax
Right.
in our state. We took the deductions and loopholes out during the negotiations with the legislature. I wasn't able to keep all of them out. Some were put back in, but we got enough of them out where we could actually lower the rate, broaden the base, and simplify. And that's exactly what needs to happen on the income side, the individual income side. On the corporate side, I say there aren't a whole lot of corporations that are paying 35%. They've got lobbyists and lawyers on Capitol Hill who can do their bidding, basically, because we've got, $500 billion worth of, filing requirements and loopholes that people need to comply with. And I say, let's just phase out corporate welfare and subsidies. We can't afford them anyway. Let's clean out the cobwebs of the corporate side of the tax code and take it from 35% to 25%, which would be more of a level playing field for businesses big and small, particularly the entrepreneurs, who in some cases are disadvantaged in the marketplace because of what companies have put into the tax code in terms of benefits and loopholes and corporate welfare. And I say those days are gone. Let's phase it out. Let's simplify, broaden the base, lower the rate, and leave our business tax a whole lot more competitive now that we're in the second decade of the 21st century. You write healthcare by starting from scratch. And all of the folks who should be standing behind Obamacare, and I don't use this as a political line, I'm not a soundbite person, but as I was involved in running a cancer institute years ago, I served on the largest healthcare provider organization in the Intermountain West. The $1 trillion that is being dropped on this economy over the next 10 years, when we can least afford it, is a loser for all of us. The mandate, which could very well be unconstitutional, is going to be a horrendous problem. I mean, you look at Massachusetts to see where the mandate has gotten people there. $2,500 cost increases for the average family. Emergency room visits that are up, quality that is down. And you say, how do we then proceed? What I would do, I would get rid of Obamacare, and in that void of opportunity, I'd call together the 50 governors, and I would say we have an opportunity now to build on where this country sits, which is uncertainty around healthcare reform and how we address it. And I would say, as governor, we took 3 years as a state, and we addressed healthcare reform for our people. It's still playing out in the marketplace. We're going to know the results over time, but I think we made some decisions that were very, very important. Similarly, you've got a lot of other states that are trying to deal with the uncertainties of skyrocketing double-digit healthcare inflation. They don't want the mandate. They don't like the Medicaid provisions that are being forced on them as a result of Obamacare. They're unsustainable longer term from a cost standpoint. And I'd say you 50 states over the next 2 to 3 years, we're going to find the solutions, and then Washington's going to step back and say, what is our rightful role in terms of helping to facilitate programs that are targeted toward cost containment, transparency, personal responsibility, closing the gap on the uninsured, harmonizing medical records, which takes a huge amount of cost out of the system. You can do all of that, but we need the best practices to emerge in the states, like I believe we were able to do as a state when we, looked at cost containment, when we looked at harmonizing medical records, the first state to ever do that, which is a huge step in terms of dealing with costs. When we created a connector with probably the first affordable insurance policy in this entire country that people could finally have access to, those who could not afford anything else. But it wasn't forced. It was a marketplace that made more choices and options available for people who would then migrate in that direction. And I believe that's the way of the future for this country. It may take a little bit of time, but the worst thing we've done is to take this one-size-fits-all healthcare reform legislation, drop it on this country when nobody understood the content, very few people. Now that they're trying to make sense out of it, they're running for cover. And I say, that's not the way to do healthcare reform. You got to do it somewhat gradually, picking and choosing and learning from the best practices that emerge from the states. We'll get there. We'll find those. For example, but right now there are many debates within The leadership of China as to where China should go and what direction it should take. Should it be more collaborative and cooperative, or should it be belligerent? And so the next few years, particularly next year, will be critically important to China's continued rise and their ability to adapt to the reality of being on the world stage. They have the 18th Party Congress next year, which will carry with it the most significant change in leadership the country's seen since 1949, at least in my recollection. And that is 60 to 70% of the top 200 positions will turn over, and we'll see the rise of the fifth generation. I know a lot of people in the fifth generation. I knew people in the fourth generation and the third generation. And this is the rise of a more nationalistic generation, a little more hubristic. They don't remember necessarily the Great Leap Forward, 1960 to 1964, where 30 to 40 million people died of starvation. They don't remember with clarity the Cultural Revolution of 66 to 76. What they do remember are 30 years of 8, 9, and 10% growth where China could do no wrong, a lot of blue sky. So this is the generation that will begin to take over next year. And with it, the implications for the United States of dealing with a more nationalistic China that has an economy that is moving along but certain to falter. They can't maintain 8, 9, 10% growth rates. A China that is in the middle of, I think, generationally significant debates about reform. You have the Party Congress next year that's going to collide head-on with a society in which there are almost 600 million internet users, 80 million bloggers in that country. I sat down at a dinner several months ago with the top 12 bloggers in China, and 2 of them present at my dinner table had readerships of 125 million each. And the conversations that they're having are cutting edge, the kind that would land anybody in prison a few short years ago. They're talking about political reform, they're talking about human rights, they're talking about the role of the internet in society, they're talking about individual freedom. And so you've got the changes bureaucratically within the party that we'll all read about next year. And that's colliding head-on with the reality of a generation that wants to move forward toward greater openness. Is that going to create a period of instability? No question about it. And we're going to see more of that over the next 5 to 10 years. So do we have an opportunity in this country to get our economics right and to begin speaking to this world in terms of manufacturing power, in terms of workforce training, in terms of educational opportunities, in terms of getting our economy right? Absolutely we do. So I say, after 10 years of the war on terror, let's bring our troops home. Let's recognize the reality of it being a counter-terror effort, and same thing in Iraq, and right-size our presence in the world based upon the real threat out there and what challenges lie ahead in the 21st century, and get on with business based upon where we are now, the second decade in the 21st century.
So how soon would you do that?
You could get that done the first year after being elected president. I have no doubt about that.